Welcome to the Intentional Wreck. I'm kidding, and I'm not Jeff. I told you I wasn't going to do a Jeff intro because it's not a podcast. But the Intentional Wreck boys, at least 2/3 of us, are here. Um, it's a little too much information to hold off for a pod because we don't do it as often. So Finn, myself, and then Corey are here to talk about just what's on the cap right there. Big news today, breaking news. Tony Stewart meets with the Stewart Haas Racing crew at 4 p.m. and tells them pretty much that, you know, you got about a couple months left, and then you're going to have to go find for some jobs. And it's going to be very interesting to see how that shapes out. And that's what we're here to talk about, because now not one, not two, not three, but four cars and four teams are looking for drivers. And these are guys that are championship teams. I mean, you talk about the legacy of Stewart Haas Racing, Corey. I mean, multiple championships, one with Kevin Harvick, one with Tony Stewart. So two championship teams. I mean, one of the greatest crew chiefs in NASCAR and Childers. That's with the four. Wonder if they stay together. We'll talk about all that. An Xfinity championship last year with Cole Custer dropping down, winning into 00. I think like 26 wins. It got to be over 50 wins in Cup. I mean, they've been around for a while. So it's definitely tough to see a team like that go. That was once a powerhouse, and now they go. But four charters hitting the market at a time like this is crazy. So, what are your initial reactions going into this season? Did you feel like that could be a possibility?
I didn't really know. I think leading into the season, what I was thinking more was I think the rumors floating around early on were that they were going to change OEMs, right?
Right,
And
right.
that what we thought was that maybe SHR would be a candidate for Honda to come into the sport, or would they make a transition to Chevy
Right.
or Toyota? So there was a lot of talk about that, and I'm a Ford guy, right? Like I drove
Right.
a Mustang when I was in high school and college. I'm a Ford guy. I drive a Toyota now,
Mhm.
but that's for economic reasons. But so really it was more along the lines of just trying to get a grip on what my fanhood, I mean, I'm new to the sport as well, right? So what does that look like when I chose to, you talked me, not talked me into, but I came into the sport and started rooting for Briscoe right from the jump. He's like the Ford guy, right? He is the darling driver of the Ford Performance Racing School. Um, and SHR just kind of felt like my kind of vibe, right?
Right.
Um, especially Briscoe. And yeah, I mean, if you'd have told me even, a month ago that SHR was going to be kaput, like completely gone, I think that I would have probably told you that you're crazy. Sell a charter or two, sure. Okay, shrink, sure, that would make some sense, but to disband it completely, no, I didn't really see that coming.
Yeah, I mean, I know that there's a former employee, I believe, of Stuart Haas, uh, that left, that has been kind of throwing a lot of shade on the internet. I think he's at RFK now. There's been some shade of that, and then of course, if you watch the All Star race with Kevin Harvick filling in for Kyle Larson to help like qualify and practice the car, while Kyle was doing the double stuff, that he made the little jab of like, he was surprised to hear from the team owner multiple times in a week. And Kevin Harvick is not afraid of throwing jabs, even though he's
Yeah,
probably good friends with
and that's
Tony.
Tony Stewart's boy.
Right,
Like they
like
are buddies. Right.
right. So like not being
Yeah.
afraid. And honestly, that now in hindsight, it feels a bit more like a jab at Haas and a less of a jab at Tony. Like he knows
Yeah.
Tony has his own side projects
Right.
and things. So, and I don't know, they didn't, at least from what I've seen, they haven't seen this like Haas is out. And because it makes sense, like if Tony wanted to stay in and Haas wanted out, then Tony can merge, sell two charters, make a ton of money off of that, and then
Yeah.
merge two charters in with something like, Front Row or something. That was the early rumor that I heard, right? That SHR and Front Row are going to merge together. I don't know how many charters they have. I know they've got what they've got Gilliland running in, and they've got the 34. So it makes sense, like combined two, that makes, 6 car teams consolidating into one team with 4 cars. Because normally, one of the big concerns with buying, and we'll talk about that when we look at the prospective like new charter buyers here, is you really start to spread yourself thin. If you're a two-car team that's not really dominating, going to three only makes things a little bit more stressful.
Okay.
Same deal a little bit with I mean, think about Trackhouse, right? And now that they've been running Zane Smith a little bit more, and they haven't had nearly as much speed as maybe we've seen from them when they first kind of became a thing with just focusing on Ross and Daniel. Now there's this Zane Smith who's in like a Spire car, but we know it's Trackhouse prepped. And then of course
Right.
all of the work that they're doing with SVG,
Yeah.
putting together a third team, like that's tough. But again, we'll get to Trackhouse and all those things. So this is a unique scenario where I was thinking, well, it's six cars and crews and engineers were consolidating down to four.
Right.
And I feel like you could kind of bypass some of those growing pains, especially with how fast the front row guys have been. Throw in
Right.
the legacy and the sponsor dollars. The question is, who would stay? So, let's talk a bit about the potential buyers here, and then we'll talk about where we think the four drivers will go. How about that?
Yeah. Sure.
The early thing, and the big teams, I think, are ready to get a third charter. Are Trackhouse and 2311.
And
So,
RFK.
and RFK, though, that's a late development. We were texting earlier about it.
Yep.
Very recently, have they developed enough speed? I'm concerned.
Sure.
Do you just ride this speed out with these two cars, or do you throw in the complications of growing pains? Like these cars are now, I would wager, if there are Fords that are competing for championships right now, both of them are at RFK. So do you kind
Yes.
of want to mess up a thing? Now, a little smokescreen tweet from Brad earlier said, I'm about 30 million short. Should we start a GoFundMe? Because the charters are expensive, right?
That's a funny bit.
And I
Right.
wonder if the charters go down in price because everybody knows they have to, be sold. But also, are they up in price because they're being bid on openly, right? It's not like the BJ McLeod thing, but the fact that he made the joke either implies some smokescreen, or maybe it's a little bit of haha, we're not going to, and then it shocks us, right? Same thing, like
Yeah.
Denny said nothing from what I've seen.
Right.
23XI completely quiet on that road.
Sure. Yeah.
So
I
but
could see. I would say this. I think it's more likely that RFK buys one than Trackhouse does.
really,
Um, yeah, I mean, look at Trackhouse this year. What have they done?
well, here's the thing, right? Trackhouse, you don't get SVG out of his Premier Series
Sure,
without the stark guarantee that he will be in Cup in 2 years. Here's the thing.
sure.
One, he's already won. Like this
Yes,
isn't a prospect. No, when we have an immediate favorite at every road course. And I,
yes.
I don't take that lightly. I love Tyler Reddick. I
Yeah,
love Chase Elliott.
there's 8 of them. There's 8 of them on the schedule
Dude,
now.
there's like 7, 8 on the schedule. He's
Yeah,
going to win one every year. You are
yes.
guaranteeing a playoff ride, even if he's trash at ovals. And I'll be honest with you, he's getting better.
He's
Um,
not trash, right? He's
w-
not
we're not
trash at
trash.
all.
Now we're
Yeah.
saving
Mhm.
our talk, and we just got back from the Coke 600, a fantastic weekend, and we're gonna have our podcast
Well,
here.
with breaking news,
What?
we're gonna record a Charlotte only pod on Thursday.
Charlotte review pod. I mean, obviously, we'll talk a bit about Gateway. The whole Denny Hamlin's bracket challenge starts, but we're
Yeah.
saving
Give you
that
some
when we
stuff.
have our third. All right, the
Yeah.
thruple needs to be here to talk about what an epic weekend we had. So
Yeah.
we won't spoil that without Jeff here.
Yeah. Yeah.
But the one note I will make, since we're talking about SVG, out he ended up getting doored, but he was working his way a top 10 at Charlotte, another tricky track. Look good at Darlington. I mean, this is a guy who's, I mean, he doesn't get practice. His practice is just live reps, and he's starting to creep into the teens and getting top 10
Yeah.
finishes in the tougher ovals on the circuit. Once he kind of nails short track driving, I mean, he's a competitor. I mean, he was up there
Yeah.
leading laps at the Talladega race. So we don't need him. I need him to be nothing but consistent. Okay, win your
Right.
race, be good enough to survive. I don't know exactly, but right now isn't there 2 playoff road course races? Watkins Glen and the Roval.
Watkins and Roval. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So with all of that, right, considering the schedule and if that doesn't change and things like that, in my mind, Trackhouse is devoted to getting a charter,
Sure.
and that will be an SVG
Well, right.
car.
I think they want one. I just
Right.
think in terms of where the Cup car speed is this year, RFK is trashing them.
Oh yes, right now the
Yeah.
better
Right.
team
Yeah.
right
Oh
now
yeah.
is
Mhm.
RFK for sure. I
That's
mean,
what I meant. Like Trackhouse has the want to, for
Right.
sure. I'm
Right.
like, there's no doubt in my mind about that. But like,
Right.
in terms of where the Cup program is between the two, I'd take RFK's.
Suarez is this year's
Yeah,
Ricky Stenhouse, where he got his playoff win early and it just fades into obscurity.
yeah,
So Daniel Suarez will punch Kyle Busch in the face next year. Lock that in. So that's how I feel right now. Ross Chastain is the only one with any kind of speed out of the two.
yeah,
So I am nervous, but they have a stark advantage in that if they get him a medium tier, a B tier car, he's going to win one of the road courses. So
yeah.
that's locked in. 2311, they bring in him. I mean, the way I see it, it just makes sense for Denny to eventually go drive for his own team.
Sure.
You get that third car. I mean, Corey
Didn't he
Hine.
just sign a multi-year deal though?
I don't know what he did, but dude, everything's changing. The world is crazy
Yeah,
at this
yeah.
rate. It's all changing. And
And
the
dude, like, and that's the crazy thing. Like, as a new fan, especially, it's like it's so hard to keep up under normal circumstances. And now it's like you throw this in, and it's like, dude, my team is getting deleted. Like, it's gone. It's
right,
like I am the Houston Oilers, dude.
right.
Like, it's just gone. And it's like, okay, well, what do I do now, man? You know what I mean? And it's hard to kind of wrap my head around. Like, where do you? It's a weird thing to root for a driver and a team who like seem like maybe they're not, the 14 we joke about they put 8 cylinders in the car this week and all that kind of stuff. But like I've never seen them be good. Like I've seen them be close,
Right.
but I've never seen them be consistently good. But there's no other sport where like if your team kind of sucks for a while, they just get straight up deleted.
Deleted.
Like
Goodbye.
from existence.
Dude, I'm a Lions fan. Tell me about it.
Bro.
You're a Commanders fan. Tell you about
Yeah,
it.
and that's what I was joking with our buddy Jack the other night because he's jumping back in. He's all excited, and he's a Byron fan, right? And I was like, dude, I'm right at home loving Briscoe. Like, it's just like middle of the road, nothing really that exciting. The empty promises, everything should be great, but it's not. But like the difference is now it's just gone,
Right.
right? So I have made my decision, okay, in terms of my Briscoe fanhood.
Okay. Interesting
If
enough.
he stays in a Ford, I will follow him.
I was
That
gonna.
that
That was one of my
I
defining questions.
and I can't imagine with the Ford Performance Racing School stuff that he would end up not in a Ford.
Yeah, I got three potential landing spots for him. We'll talk about that in a bit.
Okay.
But
I didn't
Trackhouse,
mean to jump the gun on you there.
yeah, no, you're fine. Trackhouse, I think we both agree SVG is not only is Trackhouse in the market, but we know the driver. That makes things extremely clear,
Sure.
right?
Yeah.
Even if they throw Zane in that car for a little bit longer to give SVG more time, I think SVG is ready to
Well,
move up, right? But
can we do this the other way? Let's do the teams that definitely are not going to buy one.
all
Let's get rid of those. Colleague, no. Front row, no.
well, why do you say front row?
Front row's not going to buy one, dude. That's not a big enough team.
Well, they got
They
announced first. All right,
definitely don't. They
so
don't have the speed.
well, front row's got great qualifying speed. I think one of the big things is first of all, their only driver next year is Todd Gilliland, right?
Yeah.
Because Michael McDowell's gone.
Yes.
So they've got the 34 car to fill, and buying a charter. Obviously, this is what I think could happen. I'm gonna spoil one of my Briscoe landing spots, but one of my Briscoe landing spots is there if they get another driver in the 34 because he brings money. Same for Noah. Like
Sure.
in my brain, the driver that steps in that charter has to bring money too.
Okay.
But if they are
In
still
the
considered a
34.
tier 1 Ford team,
Right.
it makes sense for them to go after a third charter. I don't know exactly who would they put in the seat. I think Barry is a good candidate for the 34 alone. That doesn't mean that they need a charter. That just means Barry goes to the. I think right now, I want Barry and Childers still together,
Yeah.
and Childers, I
Number
can't remember,
34.
and then bring them into the 34.
Okay.
The big thing is Josh Berry historically has not been the big sponsor guy, right?
Right.
They lost Bush.
Well, that begs the question.
Huh?
Does Dad Jr. buy a charter?
They said he's out on that.
Okay.
Yeah, they said that Dale Jr.
If
is
Dale
out.
Jr. buys a charter, that's a logical landing place.
Totally.
Barry.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And another thing that's at play here is this rule that they're circulating at the new charter agreement is going to lead to 3 charters per team. And
Yes.
there's unknown on whether or not that will grandfather in somebody, right? Because right now with Stuart Haas still leading, there's only 2 teams that have 4. That's Joe Gibbs and
Well,
Hendrick
that's
Motorsports, right?
I think we can probably comfortably say that they're not going to remove a charter from Hendrick and Gibbs.
Right, right.
They will be grandfathered in.
But I was
Now,
listening
if
to
they're
Actions Detrimental today, and Denny was saying, who's the best 2 teams in NASCAR? And his co-host said Hendrick and Gibbs. And he goes, why do you think that is? He goes, we got 4 data points every week. We got
yes.
4 setups, getting 4 data points every week in the one league where we cannot practice.
Right.
So, like, there's such a stark advantage. Now, granted, other teams have been able to compete. I mean, none of those teams have won the last 2 championships. Penske, though, is almost by proxy a 4-car team with the Wood Brothers 21, so you could argue that. But either way, I
So
agree.
what other teams have no shot at buying one?
I mean, I know Legacy has inquired, but I don't think they should or can. I
Okay.
think they've got to get their ducks in a row with the 2 that they've got. I mean, they
College,
did.
no way, right?
Colleague, yeah. I mean, I was hearing about a merger between Trackhouse. I
And
think if
college.
anything, Colleague is going to sell to Trackhouse,
Okay.
and like merge and it because again, like that's its own. I mean, Hemrick is awful. Allmendinger's awful. There's not anybody competing. I mean, granted, they might sneak a win again at a road course with AJ Allmendinger, because he's done it multiple times, so you have to acknowledge it.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, and I think though, here's the thing: is I don't know if SVG is running the road course. I think he's running the road courses in the '97 car. So,
Yeah.
so I can't remember if he did it in the 16 this year because I know he's doing colleague races in the 16. So,
Yeah, 'cause he ran Coda. I think he was in the 16 at Coda.
yeah. So I don't know if he's running the colleague car in that
Yeah.
regard. So they're not doing the Project 97 type thing this year. I don't know
Yeah.
exactly what their Romans, but yeah, I don't see colleague buying a team. I don't see RCR buying a team.
I would say, yeah. Okay.
I don't, and again, I don't think they should, right? Like they've got, Dylan's not doing much. Kyle Busch is just
Okay.
bad. JTG not
Yeah,
buying a
something
team.
okay. No, JTG, no.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I think there's a couple, and that then it's like, okay, well, there's 4 charters up for grabs.
Right.
Hendrick and Gibbs definitely are not buying one,
Right.
right? So there's really only a couple of places they
In my
could
brain,
go.
there's 2, and
Mhm.
because there's only 2, and there's a huge lack of teams that are looking for charters, I think naturally that means RFK and FRM are going to be able to purchase one a little bit cheaper. So there's nobody
Okay.
else, unless JRM wants to enter Cup.
Why not Penske?
Why not Penske? I think
Yes.
Penske likes their 3-car operation, and by proxy, they have a 4th with the Wood Brothers. So they already
Okay.
have what they would be doing. And that 4th car is in a partnership with another team, so they're only having the resources.
Right.
Right. So they effectively get a 4-car team. The problem is Harrison Burton can't keep it pointed straight long enough to help any teammates get data points.
Yeah.
I mean, the funniest thing, not talking about the 600, not talking about the 600, but he wrecked again. Shocker. So, so that's what I think. And then again, Legacy, no. RFK, I do think that might be a
I
little
think
bit.
RFK gets one, man.
I do think, and I do.
RFK
I think they get. I think they get it later. I think the first 2 that are 100% announced are Trackhouse and 2311, and then I think RFK is able to get one at a deal because again they have to go. They
Yes.
have to go somewhere. So I think
Right.
they're going to get it at a discounted price at some way or something that works. So, and we'll talk about who goes in that spot. And then I think that the last one, I say right now the only team that can look at it and go, well, we're a premier team for our OEM, and while we don't have 3 set drivers, we only have Todd Gilliland. Let's bring in, and then they bring in one of the guys. Bring in Barry, bring in Gregson, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, right? That's kind of the big thing here is we've got not only 4 charters up for stuff, we've got 4 drivers that need new homes. Here's what I think the biggest dollar sign one for everybody that's not a Ford, and that's Noah, right?
Yes.
I think Noah Gregson has raced well, has done enough on his image to kind of erase himself from anything. I mean, he won the fan vote for the All-Star Open, right? So fanship is not a problem at the moment. He was I mean, in Xfinity, I don't know if he won the championship, but a dog in Xfinity, tons of wins. Struggled obviously at Legacy. I think it's obvious why they were struggling so much. And he's kind of made up for it in the 10. Also, he's got the most sponsorship. That's not, I don't know dollars, right? But I mean, he's got Bass Pro Shops.
Yeah.
He's marketable. So I think he is the guy that out of the four that's gonna go somewhere else. What are your thoughts? Any landing spots in your brain?
For Noah, I don't think front row.
Right,
I don't think he doesn't seem like a front row kind of guy.
right,
They seem like more of the like quiet sort of reserve. He's a little bit of a goofball, Noah Gregson, from what I can tell.
right,
Uh, he wore the bacon shirt in Chicago last. He had the bacon car. He's like
right,
an oddball
right,
guy, right?
right, right.
Where does Noah Gregson
So here's what
go?
would be interesting, and where a spot opens up soon, is potentially Martin Truex Jr. Right, the 19 going away. There's the Bass Pro Shops connection between the two cars already.
Okay,
So, like, coming to the car and losing Truex means they can have the same amount of money between two drivers that now goes at one driver,
right.
right? It's a JGR car. Him and Ty Gibbs hate each other, so that would be hilarious. That's
Well,
why
it
that
won't happen for that reason,
you
dude.
don't think it'll happen for that
No,
reason?
I
That,
mean,
that
like, dude,
grandpa won't don't make him learn a
Ty
lesson.
Gibbs is the de facto like future of Joe Gibbs racing. I mean, he's got some sway over there, whether it's important or not at this moment. He's not calling the shots over his grandfather,
Right.
but his grandfather's going to take what Ty wants into account. Um, I don't know. Noah Gregson, I could see him at RFK if
Yeah.
RFK got a charter.
I mean,
That
honestly,
seems
we
like
said
that would be a fit.
RCR no, but if RCR was in a different, if RCR got into a third charter for some reason, Noah would be a candidate for me. I
I
would think
think
they
so.
would do that
That
exclusively
would make sense.
for Noah.
Yes, that
From
would make some sense.
so, but like that would be, again, it doesn't have to be the team acquiring a charter. Noah is a young prospect. Um, against Spire was supposed to be big money bags. They suck. Be honest with you. Corey LaJoy has done nothing. He lost it at the 600 as well.
Yeah.
Hocevar was supposed to be the young prospect, but he's okay. He looks
Yeah,
fine. He looks like a young
couple of
prospect in a shitty car. We'll call it that.
for a de facto Hendrick team, Spire is not really doing much.
Right.
That's for sure.
If I'm a Chevy team looking to upgrade a driver, I'd upgrade Corey LaJoy to Noah Gregson.
Yeah.
I think that's a way to move. I don't think I don't think Noah's somebody said this about Chase Briscoe. Somebody said executives believe he's the kind of guy you make room for. And that's a very interesting thing to say. I don't think Noah's that kind of driver where you're like, I got to kick my like decent driver out of his seat to get a good one. I don't think he's got enough sway to rip Cindric out of the 2.
I was gonna ask about the 2.
It's just Tim Cindric, dude. His dad is like Austin Cindric's dad is like such a big
wig
part of Penske. There's nothing you can do.
Yeah.
Like Blaney's
That
not going
was
anywhere. Logano's like literally
No,
33.
those two are
Those guys
definitely
aren't
not
going
going
anywhere. So
They're on the coldest of seats.
in fact, Gregson's a good fill for the 21. Should Briscoe not go there, right?
Sure.
So
Gregson doesn't come off as a number 21 guy to me either. I don't know what I think about Noah Gregson. I could see Barry in the 21. Like an
Really?
older guy, like
yeah,
you know what I mean? I don't know why. It's got the 21 has like a certain vibe to it. Harrison Burton to me doesn't fit the 21.
right.
I could see Briscoe going there, but almost not even really. Like I could see Barry going there or Priest.
I tell you
maybe.
what, I hope it's a good driver out of the 3 because that car up front feels good for NASCAR, right? Matt DiBenedetto wasn't the most liked guy, but he was close to winning races. Ryan Blaney was in that car for a while, had it on the playoffs or in the playoffs, can't remember exactly. Like the 21 being like a good car, not an R&D car, because then that's the way I would see it, is like now from a Penske Woods Brother perspective, if you get Briscoe or Gregson in there, that immediately is like, it supersedes the 2 in terms of priority and performance, and that's what you're expecting. So, and again, the chase money brings a lot. And again, I think you need to bring money to the 21 if you're going to be competitive. Otherwise, you're going to get thrown to the 21 and drive the 4th Penske car, and it's just not going to be fast, which Priest could do and not be fast. But
I can right.
Right.
I could see Priest there, I could see Barry there, I
Dude,
could see
I
Briscoe
I
there.
see
For some
Priest
reason.
I see Priest going back to Xfinity. I say
Oh,
this all the
really?
time when we've talked about. I just don't think Priest is cut out for Cup. I think he was known as he was one of Tony's guys. He wasn't exactly a guy that was like high on the radar for other teams. He's a short track dude. He's great, but like it just didn't seem like he was getting it at this
Well, and
level.
the car as it stands today on the short tracks really isn't.
Right. And even with his
It's
strength,
boring as hell anyway.
right,
Like,
even with his strength, it's not really shiny. He's not much of a road racer, like,
yeah,
just not
it's
quick.
really good at flipping over a lot of times.
Right, just not really quick anywhere. He had that one Martinsville race where he let from the pole forever. They had a pit mistake, and then they couldn't pass anybody. So again, not a him problem, a Martinsville problem. So in my brain, if I'm Ryan Priest, or if Ryan Priest's best shot is to go down and start winning races. Because as far as I'm concerned, he doesn't even have like a dominant career in Xfinity.
Right.
You're looking down at Justin Allgaier right now, who's racing extremely well there, and he's a lifer there. And you know what?
Well,
That's totally fine. Come up and do
yeah.
a race here and there to fill in for the Cup guys. If an opportunity strikes and you're able to show your skill, cool. But I think out of the four, Priest is the most likely to just not be in Cup. I think all three guys could also. I think again, Barry is a weird one because they've been racing a lot better. On Twitter, there's been a lot of
Yeah.
talk from him and his crew chief, and like they're talking about like through it all, we're a crew, we've been having fun, we've been improving, and that's expected from Barry on his rookie year. So I don't want to judge him too much, but that's
Right.
another out of the four. If somebody has to drop down to Xfinity because there's just not room, but again, there's the 34 at Front Row Motorsports up to grab.
But
I feel like Barry's a
even
perfect fit for that.
I would say I would agree, but like that I didn't even think about Xfinity because that brings
Cole
Cole
Cuss
Custer into the equation now as well,
and Riley
and
Herbst
Riley Hurst.
that need places to go, right?
Right.
So
I don't think either of them jumps to Cup right now, but like if SHR is, I mean, they're dumping their Xfinity team too, based
right.
on that didn't read like it was Cup only,
Right,
right?
no, that's the whole
So
squad.
yeah,
Like,
it's the
yeah,
whole thing is
we're
going
shutting
west.
down,
So
and that's two really good young prospects, right? More
yes,
so
both of
Riley than
whom
Cole
are going
Cupster,
to do very well in Xfinity for a long time if they stay there.
right?
So I don't really know what the prospect of. I
Yeah,
mean, that's two Xfinity charter. I don't know. I guess Xfinity uses charters as
I
well,
don't
but
think
like,
I'm not aware. I don't think they do,
yeah,
but either
but
way,
like
like
now,
that's just two big
yeah,
rides, and Ford doesn't have much of a presence in Xfinity, anyways.
right,
So
right.
I think Ford as a camp ends up losing those two guys unless you rush Riley
Oh,
Herbst up. Unless again, you could have a scenario like because I know that front row runs the 36 and the 38 a lot, so you could run the 38 and have Riley in there to try to
right.
secure him a ride, whether you run that as an open car or again if they get one of discounted charters. So,
Yeah.
um, so yeah, that's how I feel about front row. I feel like one of these drivers is gonna end up in the 34. I think it's Barry. It could be Noah. Um, but yeah, Noah's a weird one because he's got sponsorship and because he's not tied down to Ford in any way. We talked about Briscoe earlier, and we named out a couple things. One, I think he could go to the 34. He's got backing. It's a top Ford. It's a top Ford team per se, in terms of like support. But I think it would be more interesting. I think the best case scenario is Chase Briscoe at RFK. Talked about that a
Yes.
little bit earlier. I think he
Yes.
immediately comes in, and because of the sponsor dollars, he doesn't hurt their performance. He helps their performance as a 3-car team.
Yes.
Um, Putting him in that equipment immediately is going to, now we're talking 3 strong Fords that are competing for playoff spots.
Yes.
And then I think what happens is you roll that out and you let Busher kind of grow and be the leader of that, having been there forever. Briscoe right with him. And then once Brad retires, you bring Justin Haley over from the 51 to the 6. And now you have a strong 3-car garage with young, very, very talented and talented everywhere, right?
Right.
At all the different styles of racing that NASCAR has. I think that's the clear line of success for RFK.
Yeah.
Just can they get a charter is the question, right? Is it
I
worth
would
it?
I would be willing to lay money right now that RFK ends up with a charter.
Really?
Roush has plenty of cash.
Right.
Like they're not hurting for money.
The momentum certainly helps convince them to do it. If they were where
Yes.
they were last year, like around this time, before the 3 out of 5 that Busher won, before Brad breaks his streak, before Busher is like got one of the fast. I mean, their mile and a half program might be right up there with Hendricks right now, right?
Right. Um, so, and I told you over text when we were when it happened earlier today, that's my dream scenario,
Yeah,
right? As a Briscoe fan,
right.
what I want to do is I want him to go to either RFK or Penske, right? I understand the thing with the 21. I understand that Wood Brothers is tied to Penske and
Yeah,
that it's always going to be a Ford for that reason, et cetera, right? I understand all that. But I am biased because of the dog water performances that I have seen from the 21,
yeah,
right? It just feels kind of old fashioned and clunky,
yeah.
where RFK is like, they feel bright and energetic and forward thinking and like all these things that you need to be successful in modern sport, right? To be able to kind of keep up with the times. And maybe it's just that I don't get it, right? It just feels old fashioned. And this is coming from like a Penn State fan, right? I like
Right.
old fashioned.
Well,
um,
here's a big thing,
but
right? Is like the 21's kind of known for its scheme, and they do some cool stuff with like decks and stuff, and they change their stuff up. But for the most part, the 21 scheme has been pretty much the same across drivers.
forever.
Part of
Right.
that is those drivers that have been in that car aren't big sponsorship guys, so
Right.
the sponsor is coming from
Yeah.
Ford
I
and
have
thus.
to imagine that Mahindra is coming with Briscoe as well.
Right. Like I think that Chase does bring some sponsorship at a minimum, Mahindra and High Point and Ford, right? And I think
Those
like
three are like,
right.
okay.
And I really do think that I kind of want to. I mean, if you've been watching the RFK schemes, I mean, what they do with the pusher car, the Castrol oil car, the build some. I mean, they look slick. That is a
Yes.
team that is ready to. That they are stepping into the modern realm. You know, right now I think the
They
high
are
end.
Ford's version. You know what they feel like? They feel like Ford's version of Trackhouse. That's what
Yes.
it feels like.
Right.
That's how I would
I
like
mean, between
envision it. Right?
Trackhouse, RFK, and 2311, like
Yeah.
schemes and
Yeah.
ingenuity and the ability to market their teams, I I think Briscoe slides well into that. Now, I think also Noah slides well into that,
I think so.
and things like that. But you
And it
have
wouldn't
to
make any sense for RFK or any two-car team to try to buy two charters.
right,
Because if they're going to because the
right.
RFK may not be able to get grandfathered in, right?
No, it
Um,
wouldn't work like. Yeah, I think
right,
they only can. I mean, at a minimum, I think they're only gonna have money for
right.
one. But I mean, if Briscoe doesn't go to the RFK, I think Gregson could. But I think
Yeah.
this is what I was laughing at. This somebody said this is Briscoe's a driver you make room for, and then the top comment in the Reddit thread was Briscoe to the 48, and I was like, I mean,
Nah.
he would win championships in the 48 first
Ford
and
won't let him
foremost.
go, dude. Ford won't let him
I
go.
know Ford wouldn't let him go, but
He
all right.
might
For
be.
example, you're Chase Briscoe. The only ride offer you have is Front Row Motorsports or a Hendrick Motorsports ride.
Well, I mean,
Do you want to win championships?
okay, but like I'm telling you right now, I am not going to Hendrick. I'm not. So like,
This he took the
like
easy way
I
out.
will.
He didn't earn it.
I understand, right? I get what you're saying, but if somehow that was to happen, which it's not going to happen, it is funny, but it's not going to happen. Not with the guys that Hendrick has in the pipeline. So yeah, if he goes to a Chevy, if he
I
goes to a
mean, I'd
Toyota,
argue.
okay.
I'd argue they
If
got some of the weakest pipe. I'd
2011
argue Chevy has some of the weakest pipeline right now, right? So there's all of their guys are so young, right? Roger Carruth is a one-time Truck Series winner. Is he
Roger
got
will be in the 48 Ally car soon.
no? Not soon, dude. Not soon, bro. All right, here's the prospects
I
currently in
called
this ship.
Ty Gibbs before both of you and Jeff.
What? We knew Ty Gibbs was moving up.
No, you didn't.
We
I called
knew
it
Ty
first.
Gibbs was moving
You
up,
all
bro.
both thought it would be next year.
Huh?
You all both thought it would be no. You thought it would be this year. Y'all both thought it would be this year. I was like,
Yes,
no.
it was prior to the well, I believe that was prior to the 18 leaving. When the 18 left, it was like, oh yeah, well now he'll come up, right? Because he filled in for Kurt Busch at the for the Kurt Busch injury and was doing good. I remember we were talking. Then they announced that the 18's gone, and then when the 18 left and they bought out the 8, it's like okay, yeah, he'll come up. But Raja's really like. All right, listen. Ty Gibbs was competing for Ty Gibbs were competing for Xfinity championships. Raja Carruth does not have his grandfather as Rick Hendrick, and 2, has not won an Xfinity race. He's won one truck race, which is great, and I
Sure.
like Raja. It is going to be a long time before he's in the 48.
Okay.
Um,
I will trust you on that.
I think
Let me say this.
Hocevar's losing a little bit of hype
Sure.
after the big start. They've got
It's
Sam
77,
Mayer,
man.
who is solid, but I think Sam Mayer's got a bit to
But if
learn
you put
before he's
if you
ready.
put Hocevar in the 48 today, he's competitive.
I think he's as competitive as he is in the 77. I don't think
No.
Alex is exactly getting more out of that car. And there's not
And
much.
you know what? Bowman's been better too.
Right.
Like Bowman's
Right. Bowman's fine.
had some
Bowman's
speed
been
there.
consistent.
Yeah.
I don't think he. Again, that's the thing. Is like, would I make the decision to shove? I wouldn't if I'm Rick Hendrick, just because it's like somebody has to be content with being fourth best.
Yeah.
Not that Briscoe couldn't, but Bowman knows his place,
Yeah.
and he knows, he
Yeah.
knows his place. And maybe the thing is like, hey, dude, you're not going to get the best car,
Right.
but
He does right now. He does right now. He's
but
getting some help right now.
I don't
The
know.
48.
I don't know. I mean, that
Everybody
is
else in the playoffs already.
well. I would hope so. He
Yeah.
hasn't exactly been looking too good.
Yeah.
Darlington, he
Yeah.
was meh. Charlotte, he was running in the top 5,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
I'd have to really see it, and we don't really have too many good Bowman tracks left, so I'm interested
Yeah.
to see how that plays out. But, I mean, all in all, I don't
Let me
think
ask
that.
you let me ask you a logistics question here. How do the numbers work? Right? So like SHR is disbanding, right? Are they just forfeiting the numbers? Do the numbers come with the
Oh, the
charters?
numbers are open.
The
Yeah.
numbers are
You're
open.
talking about the car number 4, 14.
Yes.
Yeah, no,
Yes.
those are, as far as I'm concerned, they're up to
Up for grabs.
grabs. Yeah,
Okay.
as far as I know, the
So
14 could go with, because the
okay.
NASCAR gives the numbers.
NASCAR gives okay.
Right,
So
right.
in theory, right, it would be possible for Briscoe to stay in the 14 and go to RFK.
Yeah. Yeah, I
Okay.
do think they would have to change like the font, like the
The font,
branding of
right.
the 14, but
Sure.
the actual 14 car could stay with Briscoe. I don't know what
Okay.
Briscoe's like true number is. That's another thing that we kind of never consider is like
He was in the 98. He was in the 98 in
right,
Xfinity,
but that 98
but
state.
he's
Yeah.
been very clear that he was a 14 car fan growing up.
Yeah, I mean, he
And
might stay with it
wants to be
just because
involved.
of that. But
Yeah.
yeah, that happens quite a bit. Like Kyle Busch's number is like in the 50. I think Kyle Busch's like number is 54, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken. So like that's his thing. So I guess we never really get to consider that growing up.
Yeah.
Growing up might affect that. So, but I think that Briscoe to RFK, if they get one, and if not, the 21 makes so much sense. I think Barry
Yes.
to the 34
I think that makes a lot of sense.
makes a ton of sense. I don't think that McDowell's bringing any extra sponsor dollars that Barry isn't. And I think if you package that with bringing in a crew chief like Rodney Childers, then you're in a great spot. Noah's
Sure.
the hugest question mark. So if you're watching and you have an idea where you think Noah Gragson's gonna go, there's a comment spot for you.
Sure.
But that's gonna be huge. Briscoe did put out a little video today on Twitter. I don't know if you saw that.
I did.
But he said that they're up until the end of the year. So again, I don't know if that's smokescreen. I don't know if nobody's reached out to him yet.
I can't imagine that he's
Dude,
got a deal in place.
they've got to that's got to go so fast, dude. You have to make a jump at him. Now Hendrick's not going to move somebody out of the seat, but if there's a chance, I mean, again, the seats that are movable, I think Kyle Busch might be movable. Again, you don't see him leaving Ford, but
No, there's no chance that Ford lets him go to RCR.
dude,
There's
I
no
could
chance.
see a thing like this, right? I could see one of those guys going into the 8. We talked about Noah. I could see Noah going to the 8 and Kyle Busch going to 23-11 and running
Temporarily, sure.
and finish his career there until
Yeah.
someone's ready. I don't think like Corey Heim is ready to come up yet.
I don't think Kyle Busch is in any
I think John Hunter's
really in
probably
love with being at RCR.
right.
I wouldn't think.
And I don't
at
think
this point.
I don't think he's soured on Joe Gibbs or Toyota or Denny.
Right.
I definitely don't think he's
Or
soured
Denny,
on
right.
Denny. So I could see Kyle going to race for Denny, and I could see John Hunter leaving the 42, taking over like the 19. I think that's kind of what we're seeing reserved for that. I think Joe Gibbs is in a position,
makes
especially if
sense,
Ty
yeah.
Gibbs starts becoming a winner, that they can keep a young
Right.
guy in the 19 and let Bell and Hamlin be like the flagship guys. And then
Yeah.
I think after I think at that point, after one of them retires, I think, again, the weird thing about grandfathering in is like you have to stay at 4, even if you wanted to let one go.
Well,
Well, I guess you could sell a chart.
they
You
would
could
have to. They could sell one,
sell
but
one.
they're not going to.
So,
They're not going to.
I mean, I
Hendrick's
just know
definitely
that.
not going.
Well, here's the thing: is I just give Coach only has so many years left on this earth.
Yeah.
And with his son passing, I don't know who's in line to run that, and I don't know what that plan is. So I've always kind of seen like 2311 just kind of waiting in the waters for that to occur, and
Yeah.
then they're the chief guys, right? Because once Coach Gibbs is gone, I don't know the logistics of that. If his son was set to take over, if there's another person set to run that ship, but that's how it goes. But either way, tons of things to go. Tons of opportunities. So keep your ears to Reddit, Twitter, wherever you get your NASCAR news. Bob Pockris is the top account you should be following.
I got one more question for you.
Yeah.
If 2311 buys a charter, what is the number of the car going to be?
Somebody said 33 for Pippin, and it's like, brother, if you don't know, they hate each other. I know that they run like the 60 or like the 67 sometimes.
They're not gonna get
8
or 24 because of Kobe, right?
Oh no.
You would think that it would be some kind of basketball connection. Like
Can't get the 12. He did run the 12 for a game, but Blaney's got that locked down. Yeah, I think you just kind of end up. That's why I think eventually Denny goes over there. 11, it takes the 11 with him. 23-11, and then you have the 45.
Yes, right.
That's why I think is the most like long-term thing. It might not happen this season, but I see a scenario where that's why I think Kyle Busch goes, and maybe Kyle runs the 18.
Sure.
Right? But the 18 is a Joe Gibbs car. Like that's the flagship Joe Gibbs number, right?
Right.
So then I think what happens is after the contract's over, they swap. 23-11, sure. Denny finished his career out at his own team. Whoever replaces Kyle Busch takes over the 18. That's the flagship car now for them. They bring it back. So I think there's a lot of.
And then the number 11 goes to 23-11.
Right. And then the number 11 goes to 23-11, and that sunsets. Right.
Yeah.
I don't think 11 is a true
Joe Gibbs
number at this rate. So hell, I don't even think they have it in the Cups or in Xfinity. I think that's with Call Lake. Yeah, Josh Williams drives the 11. So, all right. Well, we've hit 42 minutes. So, if you stayed this long, we appreciate you. We will be filming our Coca-Cola 600 review podcast. We all went on a huge trip together. It was a blast. Lost a camera, so didn't get a whole bunch of the footage, but we got some cool stuff at the Hall of Fame and things. So plenty of fun stories to chat about there. And then me and Corey will be racing Wednesday night, tomorrow night, on the Bandit Racing League. That's in the description below. And we'll be racing at Darlington in some throwback schemes. So I don't know what we're going to... I mean, Corey can go to a throwback scheme to this week as in memory of SHR. I'm the 48 car, so I will probably be running.
It's going to be a short race for me. We're running a Darlington.
A Jimmy throwback. Yeah, so plenty of time there. Maybe you could spot for me afterwards. So, all right. We will see you guys next time on the Intentional Wreck Podcast.